Hello and welcome. Here in the Crimewatch studio, we've 40 top detectives from all around the country.
And among tonight's remarkable cases, Princess Diana's mother appeals on the programme to the burglars who stole the original of this bracelet.
The Christmas on Merseyside that was rudely interrupted.
And the truth behind Christmas presents that fall off the back of a lorry.
But before all that, remember our reconstruction 2 months back on a rapist who committed at least 9 attacks across southeast England? It prompted huge publicity and an avalanche of calls. Over 4,000 people rang.
We can reveal tonight it was a Crimewatch viewers' call that led to the arrest of a man from Kent. He's been charged with 9 counts of rape.
This is Vicky Coolidge. You probably won't know Vicky, but you will surely have read about her son. Wayne Trotter, was walking home from work 2 weeks ago in Borehamwood in Hertfordshire when someone poured petrol over him and set him on fire. Neighbours were woken by screams and they found him enveloped in flames. He died 12 hours later from the burns. Vicky, how did you hear about it?
I had a phone call from Anne.
His wife?
Yes, and she said that Wayne had been burnt, and I just thought he'd been burnt at work. And I just got ready and went to the hospital.
He had 90% burns. Fatal burns are normally about 30%. He had 90%. And his wife was pretty much on the scene very quickly. 2
neighbours went to the door and she went out and tried to treat him.
She's 6 months pregnant?
She certainly is.
How is she now?
Yeah, we're still very concerned about her.
I mean, what happened? He was coming home from work. Was he able to explain what happened, or was he just too ill?
No, I don't think he could explain. All he asked was for his wife.
Everybody describes Wayne as such a nice guy, decent, no problems.
Exactly.
Why did this happen, do you think?
I just think Wayne was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone was going to get it that night, and unfortunately it was my son.
Is that what you think, Steve?
Certainly, all of our inquiries so far have not revealed any motive for this dreadful attack. And that's unusual in what appears to be such a savage attack.
A lot of accelerant, a lot of petrol was used to set fire to him. I mean, this wasn't just an odd bit from a lighter or something. This was a huge dousing in petrol.
Certainly not. We know that petrol was used. We can't be certain that other things weren't used, but we know that petrol was used, and a large amount of it as well. And that indicates a degree of pre-planning, or at least a degree of time that the offenders had in order to get the petrol and douse Wayne in the petrol.
Now, Steve's getting a lot of cooperation
Yes.
from people on the estate. So
Yes.
what do you want? What are you on Crimewatch for tonight? What do you want people to do? What are you hoping will result?
I want these people caught, and I want to take them out of society.
Steve?
Exactly that. We are getting a lot of cooperation. We've got a lot of names put forward, but what we want is deeper information. And by that I mean that I know that there are people on the estate, and indeed in Borehamwood as a whole, who will know exactly who committed this murder, exactly who was at the scene, and exactly who committed this murder. And I want them to show the courage that Vicky has shown tonight in coming forward and actually making this appeal. Them to show the courage to come forward and tell us what they know, so that we can actually take these people out of society so they can do no more harm.
Well, please give us a call. Please give your own name too. As Vicky says, let's take these people out of society. This was the most appalling attack. You can call us here in the studio, or there's a local incident room on 01707 33 55 00.
For our next case, we go to Lydiate, just outside Liverpool. A Sunday afternoon in October at St Gregory's, the Roman Catholic Church on Liverpool Road. A young couple and their baby were guests at a christening.
It was a nice morning. Went to get the little man all dressed up. I felt good because I had my hair all sitting nice and my clothes were nice, and just bought a new outfit. I did feel nice and tidy for a change. We were looking forward to the christening. It was a good day.
A warm welcome to you all, family and friends, as we have gathered here today to celebrate and bear witness to the christening of baby Beth. I'm particularly...
I was hoping my son was going to be quiet.
Because I am
We
very
had been to another christening earlier in the year, and halfway through he decided not to be noisy, so I ended up taking him out of the church.
But he was really, really good. He was watching everything, watching the lights and everything.
Baptize thee in the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Ghost.
Something like a christening event when all the friends get back together and seeing the children of our friends who obviously we don't see either.
Children were all playing. My little boy, he was getting tired, so I had to try and get him to go to sleep.
He's really starting to kick off now, love. Actually, I'm just going to take him for a little stroll. Oh, lovely drink.
A bit tired.
We go for a little walk. Come on. Oh, there we are.
I walked around the car park, but it wasn't really settling, so I thought, oh, well, you know, it was a nice day. I walked down to the bottom and came back up again.
Come on now. Come on, little man.
Because I was shouting, he got something into my mouth. I don't know whether it was his sweets or what it was, stone or I don't know. My son was really, it wasn't a cry, he was really screaming. You just sort of get new strength to, you know what's happening, but I didn't know where my son was. It was him that made me more determined to get away from what was happening. His crying actually got stronger, so I believe that was what distracted him. I just had to see where my son was, and I just had to get to him.
It was an attack on my whole family. My wife had been attacked, my son was there at the time. There's not much worse you could do to someone.
Well, this is an e-fit of the man who carried out the attack, and this is the detective looking for him. Now, Mike, we've underplayed the violence of that assault, as we always do on Crimewatch, but this was a very serious sexual assault, wasn't it? And what can you tell us about the man who did it?
Well, unfortunately, very little. He's in his early 20s, of average height and average build. He has close cropped dark hair, very swarthy, dark complexion, but significantly quite a pock-marked features, which was a particular features that the victim recalled.
He was entirely silent as well, wasn't he, during the whole thing?
Yes, throughout the attack, unusually, he uttered not one word to the victim, either a threat or anything else.
The fact that he did this, it was, what, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, out in the open, anyone could have seen him. Certainly reckless, to say the least, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It seemed to be a spontaneous attack. It's a location that's actually overlooked by a number of houses, and it's adjacent to a road which is fairly busy, and certainly in the church grounds where the guests could well come out of the church, and he could perhaps have been discovered by them.
He put something in the victim's mouth, didn't he? She didn't know it was a sweet or a pill. What was it? Were you able to find out?
Well, we believe that it's a sweet. We have had some forensic tests taken over, but that in actual fact is quite bizarre and obviously a futile attempt to stop her from calling out.
We saw in the reconstruction there a woman walking past just after the incident. You want to hear from her, don't you?
Yes, we do. We have actually made some appeals in local media, but she hasn't come forward. It's highly likely that she may well have seen the attacker flee from the scene. The victim feels that she did actually register her presence, but she clearly didn't know that she'd undertaken such an ordeal, and we'd be very keen and anxious to trace and speak to her.
OK, Mike, well, thanks very much. If you can help us, if you were that woman, perhaps, or if you know anything about this, call us here in the studio, or you can call the incident room on 0151 777 3165.
Why would a killer put up a flag to lead police straight to his victim? This bizarre and perhaps unique act has never been made public up till now, but it happened 17 years ago. Today, with new scientific evidence, this long unsolved murder has once again become a big inquiry.
It was a case that rocked the northwest of England. A 9-year-old boy had gone missing between home and school in Preston, and he'd been seen in the company of 2 strangers. Tonight, with new evidence that can rule people in or out, we hope someone will be able to name those men. Imran Vora was 9 years old and went to Frenchwood Primary School.
Okay, so
After lessons, he often stayed in the playground with friends. But that Thursday, he didn't walk home with them as usual.
I'm not coming home today. Nah, I'm ready for here for someone. I'll see you tomorrow.
He didn't say who he was waiting for, but an Asian man was seen to greet him. This is one of the men we need to trace tonight. From here, the picture becomes hazy. Several people saw a boy who could have been Imran on his own. And now a second man enters the inquiry. A shadowy figure. There was a scruffy white man in his 40s who was also seen in and around Avonham Park. At 5 p.m, Imran was due to be at his mosque, but he never turned up. And when he still wasn't home by 9:30, his parents raised the alarm. Dozens of local people joined police in a desperate search.
come over here.
And at dawn, Imran was found in Avonham Park. He'd been sexually assaulted and strangled. This photo has been withheld till now. Why had the killer tied Imran's trousers like a flag in a tree?
Well, this is Saqib Parvez, who was one of Imran's best friends, and Detective Superintendent Mick Turner is in charge of the case. Mick, those trousers tied to a tree, you've not released that until tonight. What's the significance of that, do you know?
We can only speculate as to why the killer did that. Some people have suggested that he may have known that Muslims like to bury the dead promptly, so was directing the searchers, or alternatively, perhaps more likely, he was leaving a marker for himself to return to the scene of the crime, perhaps to revisit the body, possibly to dispose of it somewhere else.
And then, if he did go back, was horrified to see how many people were out searching.
That's right, Imran lived very close to the scene where his body was found. The killer may not have realised that and was perhaps came back and saw the searchers actually in action.
Saqib, you were with him that afternoon until he went off on his own. Just tell us a bit about him. What sort of guy was he?
Imran was a great kid. He was good fun to be with. He was trustworthy. So he was a shy person, but basically just a great kid any kid at that age would like to be with.
A shy person, so he wouldn't normally have gone off with somebody he didn't know?
Not really, no. He was always with friends, not one of those who'd go astray on his own.
What effect did this have on you and all the other kids when you knew that he'd been murdered?
Basically just shocked, scared, fearful just to leave the house. For weeks on end, we didn't leave our...
For weeks on end, you didn't leave her?
Weeks on end, we didn't attend school, didn't attend the mosque. Just terrified, basically, after the atrocious attack.
These things are so very rare. We keep saying that, but I mean, this is a very rare event. So it's presumably improbable that whoever killed him would have done this again or done it before.
I think so. There aren't many child murders, and most of them are actually detected. So I don't feel that we're dealing with a person who's going to have killed a lot of children here.
How could this guy ever be detected? How can viewers help?
Well, we feel, and the experts who are advising us feel, that this person will have offended again. He'll have committed sexual offences against other boys, other young men, perhaps even people he knows or families he may have insinuated himself into. And the viewers may recognise the descriptions we've given out and may put two and two together, and that's all we need.
So you're appealing to what? To police officers, prison officers, doctors, community workers, anybody who could have come into contact with somebody they recognise as either one of those two people in the reconstruction?
That's right, or the behaviour that they recognise or the particular circumstances of the crime. People in the criminal justice system in any way, it may strike a chord with them.
Well, if you think you can help, if there's anybody out there that worries you, remember, they must have been in Preston in 1985. Give us a call. If you can provide the names, the police have DNA, so it's easy to eliminate people who are innocent. 0500 600 600. Some faces now, and here to prompt your powers of observation, Detective Sergeant Jackie Hames.
So take a close look, because I've got some CCTV you might find interesting. Take a look at this woman doing her Christmas shopping in bulk. Unfortunately, she didn't hang around to pay and ran out to a waiting car. Here she is earlier, arriving at Marks & Spencer's in St Albans, Hertfordshire. Congratulations to the eagle-eyed security staff for becoming suspicious and getting these very clear CCTV pictures. Little did they know they would be attacked with CS gas by her getaway driver as they tried to capture them. Although we didn't get him on camera, he was a white man driving an old red Ford Escort. 2 members of the public who came to help them also got sprayed. Tell us who she is, and it might also lead us to the driver. Some more on-the-ball security staff. This man turned up at a Milton Keynes bank to collect 8 grand's worth of euros, which had been ordered by phone. The cashier became suspicious when she looked at his driving licence, which later turned out to be forged. She alerted shopping centre security, who trained the cameras on the entrance. Shopping centre security staff then took up position outside. While she was making some security checks, he became agitated, left the bank and started talking on his mobile phone. Suddenly, he ran to a silver Toyota car and drove away before security staff could reach him. Have you any idea who he is? If you can help with any of these cases, please call us here in the studio.
Take a look at Princess Diana's right wrist, the one with the gold link bracelet. It was one of her favourites, but it's a copy. Her mother, Frances Shand Kidd, told me she had a replica made for Diana's wedding because her daughter loved it so much. Now it's been stolen, and we need your help to find who took it. You may have heard about the burglary. It happened 2 months ago in the island of Seal near Oban in Argyll. The thief maybe knew that Mrs Shand Kidd would be in London as a witness in the trial of the royal butler, Paul Burrell. Other jewellery was taken too. This pearl choker has a detachable diamond clasp which can be worn as a brooch. The pair of aquamarine and diamond earrings she's wearing here have great sentimental value for Mrs Shand Kidd. They're in memory of her son John, who died when he was a baby. And this oval aquamarine single stone ring surrounded by diamonds was given to Mrs Shand Kidd by her father. Earlier, I spoke to her on the phone from her home in Seal and she told me what the jewellery means to her.
The articles highlighted in this programme carry a very high sentimental value. But the bracelet and the earrings, which you see, they were tangible links to my deceased children, as was the ring my father gave me, and also the pearl choker I wore for the weddings of all my children.
So it's a terrible loss to you that this jewellery's been taken, then?
Well, I'm used to adversity, I think, but I appeal to anyone who has knowledge of the whereabouts of my jewellery to come forward. I don't think they can bring happiness to anyone other than me, because they are too steeped in emotion.
What would you say if the burglar is watching tonight, or perhaps someone who's been sold this jewellery from the burglar? What would you say to them tonight?
I hope they would feel it wasn't theirs. It was taken without being asked. It is, in fact, a really scary, odd feeling that someone or some people have been in your home in every cupboard and drawer.
Charlie, you've been looking into all of this, and where Mrs Shand Kidd lives is a pretty remote area. Everybody knows everybody else. What's the reaction of the community been?
Mrs Shand Kidd is very well known by all the community in Seal Island. She's very well respected for her charity work, and all the community are saddened and shocked by the crime.
Now, the fact that everybody does know everybody else, any stranger there, a burglar, would stand out like a sore thumb.
Yes, we traced a witness, a neighbour of Mrs Shand Kidd, who came across a man at 11 o'clock that night. He's described as 20 to 30s, 5'8" in height, of medium build and a Glasgow accent. We're asking that gentleman, who may be a tourist, to come forward so he can be eliminated from the inquiry.
OK, Charlie. Well, certainly if that was you, give us a call. Perhaps you're a jeweller who's been offered the jewellery, or if you're the burglar and your heart has been sufficiently touched tonight to return the jewellery. You can do it anonymously through a police PO box number. Call here in the studio and the officers here will give you that number. And incidentally, a newspaper has put up a reward. 0500 600 600.
Listen now to a 999 call that came in from Brockley near Catford in south-east London.
2 white men, yeah, and a girl, yeah, they just come off the bus, yeah. I don't know if you've been reported as stabbing.
I can't breathe, my chest! Calm down, calm down. What's actually happened?
As the boys got off the bus, yeah, and then the boys ran down the stairs, yeah, and the 2 white boys went after them, and then they stabbed them.
Right, there's an ambulance coming, all right? Yeah.
It's on its way. And the black boys now on Upper Brockley Road.
Keep still for me.
Your heart stopped how many times? It was 3 times? Had to be resuscitated 3 times. I just couldn't believe it was actually happened to my own child, you know. I tell you, I wouldn't want to go through that again. Never again.
Hi, Jez, you alright?
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Why are you looking at me? Why are you screwing with me?
No, I wasn't looking at you.
I'm not stupid. I'm not some sort of stupid white boy. Get me?
He had one of them expressions on his face as if, like, he just hated everything, man. What he was saying, didn't really bother me. I just wanted to get home.
See you later.
Alright, see you later.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Rachel.
So you guys going to check the clubs?
Yeah, I'm going soon.
Right, so I'll see you guys in a minute.
Yeah, alright.
Right, take care of yourself. See you.
Bye.
I've been stabbed! I've been stabbed! My chest! I can't breathe! Strong. Breathe. I can't breathe! Strong. Come on! Come back here! Come back here! Yeah, come on! I'm stabbed, man! I'm now for you, bro. I'm calling them now. I'm calling them now. One sec. I need an ambulance. Hey, come on! What? Move it out. Things like that get me mad. He tried to run it up with me. If he wants to say anything, he can say it to my face. Prat, made me cut myself. Look, it's all right, okay? Come on, let's go.
Hello. Yeah, there's been a stabbing. Yeah, there was 2 white men and a girl. Yeah, they just came off the bus.
The knife man is tall and skinny with fair hair and a long thin nose and is in his late teens or maybe early 20s. His accomplice is shorter and maybe 2 years younger with shaved dark hair.
If someone is hell-bent on killing someone or stabbing someone, they're going to do it regardless. I mean, he was bright enough to do it on a packed bus in front of so many people. Who knows what he would have done if you weren't on the bus, if you were on the street. They want to think about it.
The man with the knife very nearly killed that night. The worry is, of course, he will kill someone soon. Don't have that on your conscience. These must surely be known racists, known troublemakers. Ring us before it's too late. Remember, both were probably late teens, though one could have been a little older. Happened 3 months ago. Now, around then, both of them were wearing what would then have been brand new Reebok PB trainers. White and red in one case like these, white and blue the other one. One had shaved blonde hair, the other had shaved dark hair. Crime Stoppers are offering a reward of up to £5,000. Call them, call us here in the studio, or call the incident room on 020 8284 5015.
Now, some cases that were solved directly because viewers called in to help. Last year in Harrow, Middlesex, 3 men were attacked with axes by a gang in the street. One was very badly injured. All we had to go on was CCTV taken from a nearby tube station just before the attack. But a viewer identified this man. He's a 22-year-old postal worker called Thiva Jayasundra. But he won't be sorting the mail for quite a while. He's just been sentenced to 2 years for his involvement in GBH and violent disorder. Last March we showed a picture of a wanted man, but didn't say much more.
And another no-show at court. West Mercia police are looking for Philip Berry. He comes from Birmingham and should have stood trial at Worcester Crown Court last year on a charge of robbery.
What we couldn't tell you then was that Philip Berry had headed up a 3-man outfit who used shocking violence during a robbery on a post office in Kidderminster. They got away with a small amount of money, but not before slashing the postmaster's hand and holding a gun to his daughter's head. Several viewers called in, one with an address in Moseley in Birmingham. Philip Berry was arrested and the gang has just been sentenced to more than 30 years between them for armed robbery. 3 months ago, we had a huge response on the child's torso, which had been found last year floating in the Thames. Police had called the dead boy Adam. Forensic tests show that Adam's intestines contained a strange concoction of ingredients, which police believe he was forced to eat as part of a ritualistic killing.
We employed some of the top geologists on the land, and they're baffled, and they just cannot source this item. So
anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world. So we're asking for any scientists out there who can help, or someone who can put the combination of all these ingredients together. As a result of the Crimewatch appeal, over 300 people called in. What we decided is to bring all these people together under one roof in the new year, where we can discuss where each of these individual items, constituent items in the potion came from, and hopefully will link us into where Adam originated from.
Now, let me tell you about some of the calls we've had so far. I've just noted some of them down here. Do you remember we showed you the attack, the sexual attack during a christening in Merseyside? A woman has rung in who believes she was attacked or raped by the same man. There's the same business with him putting the sweet in her mouth. I know you were upset when you rang. You did give the name of the person you think attacked you. Please call back and give us your name. Even if you don't want to press charges, the police would dearly like to talk to you. In the murder of Wayne Trotter, if you remember, he was doused in petrol and set alight. Some information coming in there, and also a number of people wondering if there's a reward. There is a reward. You can claim that through Crime Stoppers. It's £5,000. And on the murder of Imran Voran, the 9-year-old in 1985, a number of names coming in on that too. So that's all very encouraging.
And we're also getting some information on a case that we haven't even mentioned so far tonight. The studio number is always on the screen, or almost always, and if you're watching on digital satellite TV, as and from tonight, you can email us directly through your remote control. We have gone interactive. Just press the red button on your handset.
Coming up, the 2 brothers and their sister who've lived together for 75 years survived 2 world wars, and the 4 thugs who failed to face them.
Fun enough, I wasn't scared.
Who'll speak up for the murder victim people seem to like, but who died without a friend? If you bought or are thinking of buying a new washing machine, dishwasher, TV set or stereo for Christmas, and it came or is likely to come off the back of a lorry, it may have done so not just metaphorically, but literally.
They've isolated it.
Yeah.
Hello? There, calm down, calm down. Here, give a lift to the sparrow. See.
One Thompson television, one JVC television, and one Zanussi washing machine.
Check it out.
Just 22 drops to do.
Okay, great. Where are we headed then?
Bexley, do you know it?
Not a clue, mate, no idea.
turn left for Beddoe Way, past that Safeway depot, all right? Yeah. It's a white van behind us. What the bloody hell's wrong with it? I don't know. Maybe something's wrong with the tailgate and we have to pull over. What's the problem?
You got a flat tyre, mate. Just there. Don't turn around or you get hurt. Now pull the tailgate down. Pull it down! Come on. Right, get out and keep your mouth shut. You what? Get out and keep moving. Out. Get it down. Now get your jacket off. In the front. Keep your face down. Come on. Don't look down. Get up. Don't turn around. Down. 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 So you don't want to get hurt, so all you're going to do is keep quiet. You listening to me? Right. All right, let's go, let's go! Come on, ladies! Keep it shut, you! At the front! All right, come on, get it out. Come on! It'll take three of you, get over here! Hey, keep your eyes shut, son! All right, come on, get this tailgate up now! Right, got it up. Right, you keep your head down and keep quiet, okay? Right, hands behind your back. Come on, hands behind your back. And you, hands behind your back. Now you just keep quiet. Keep it down, lads. Right, you just keep quiet, you won't get hurt, all right? Come on.
Look at EFIT again, and let me tell you, there's a £5,000 reward, which is almost as much as the total value of everything they stole. If you can help, give us a ring here in the studio.
How can a likeable man leave almost no trace of his life? Jeffrey Windsor had family and friends, but 6 months ago he was found kicked to death in a park, and detectives have been unable to find out much about him. Jeffrey lived opposite Beulah Heights, a park in the shadow of one of the big TV masts that tower over South London. He was found one night lying dead. He'd been slashed from behind with an old car aerial, and when he fell, he'd been kicked in the head.
It's unclear as to what he was doing in the park. The park is a well-known meeting place within the gay community. We have had a few witnesses come forward, but we know that there were more people in that park that night. I would appeal to anybody to come forward. You will be dealt with sympathetically and in confidence.
On Tuesday the 25th of June, Jeffrey left work soon after 5. But instead of going straight home, his travel card shows he went to Holborn. Why? And what did he do between 6 p.m. and the discovery of his body under this tree? Not far from Jeffrey's body was this ring. It's quite distinctive, gold and silver metal. It possibly comes from the Far East. Does it look familiar? What's odd is that Jeffrey's flat, just opposite the park, betrays so little of his private life. He lived on his own and seems to have had few friends, and very few people have so far come forward to help.
We need to speak to anyone who has any information at all about Jeffrey, about his lifestyle, about where he was on the evening of Tuesday the 25th of June. Jeffrey Windsor died a tragic death. He was loved by his family. He was well respected and liked by his colleagues at work. Nobody deserved to die the way Jeffrey did.
Brian Haynes is here, who's investigating the case. And Bob Hodgson is an independent advisor from the gay community who's helping on the case. Brian, it was a very, very tragic death, alone in the park like that. You've been able to find out so little about Jeffrey. What about a possible motive?
Yes, the area of Beulah Heights is an area used for cruising by the gay community. It's also been the scene of several attacks in the past.
Now, we show in the reconstruction there that a car aerial was used in the attack. Have you ever come across the use of a car aerial as a weapon in an attack like this before?
No, it's very unusual, and we're looking for anyone that's mentioned conversation with a car aerial.
Now, there will be lots of reasons why people who are in that area, it's an area known by the gay community for cruising. There'll be lots of reasons why they won't want to come forward this evening. But what would you say to people to encourage them to come and help on the case?
Sure, Fiona. Well, my job as an LGBT independent advisor is to keep my eye on these guys and make sure they're playing fair. And I can assure people that the police are only interested in solving Jeffrey's murder, not for the reasons why anyone might have been in Beulah Heights at the time at all.
Now, we're talking about the end of June, wasn't it, in Beulah Heights? That's the time we want people to help with. It's possible, I suppose, that this person may have attacked other people. Other people may have experienced something similar. If they want to call tonight, they can talk to you direct if they want, can't they?
That's right. And, you know, I can well understand the reasons why people might be reluctant to come forward. They may not trust the police, but I have to say to them, this is not the time to remain silent. Jeffrey's killer is still out there and may well strike again. So if you've got information, call us at Crimewatch and give us that information.
Now, Brian, I suppose it's just possible that whoever did commit this murder may have boasted about this attack.
Yes, it's very unusual to use an aerial. If anyone can remember any conversation by anybody who says they've attacked someone using an aerial, we want to know about it.
Is it possible, perhaps, that he didn't realise he'd actually killed Jeffrey?
It is possible that when the person left the park, he didn't realise that Jeffrey was dead. But, obviously, he did die as a result of the attack. And we're looking for anyone that's had any sort of information that could be of usage to us in the case.
OK, well, thanks very much. As you've heard, the investigating team promised great discretion. And there's a £10,000 reward. Call us here in the studio or call the incident room on 020 8247 8261.
We know from surveys that only about 20% of rapes are officially reported to the police. The fact is that most victims have been traumatised enough without the thought of going through with an official prosecution. But police really want more victims to come forward. And there's a remarkable experiment that seems to be helping. It started in Manchester, it's spread to Leicestershire, to Lancashire, to Northumbria, West Yorkshire, and now London. There's a medical centre that's opened up especially for rape victims. It's the Haven in Camberwell in South London, and they've seen over 1,800 people since they opened 2 years ago.
There's no such thing as a typical victim. Each victim is totally individual, and they all react very, very differently to the situation and what has gone on. Very often victims don't know whether they want to go forward to the police. Maybe it's just the fear, very often, of the unknown. Sometimes it's because they're scared of the assailant or the consequences of the assailant. Sometimes it's because they have a mistrust of the police. If the victim doesn't want to report it to the police at the time, they can come here and have a full forensic examination to gather evidence, which can then be frozen while the client decides at a later date whether they want the police involvement.
The Haven is paid for by the Met. Care for victims takes priority over prosecutions, but detection is still important. So the police have also set up teams of specialist officers who deal only with rape cases. They have chaperones who look after victims as long as they're needed, and they campaign to make it easier to report rape and to prosecute. They call themselves Project Sapphire, and they need your help tonight on 2 of their inquiries. Desmond Marimo didn't show up at court after being charged with rape in May this year. He's originally from Zimbabwe and had a job as a social worker over here until he disappeared. Can you tell us anything more about him? The Sapphire team in West London are looking to identify the man in this e-fit after a male rape in Hanwell in June this year. He's described as Mediterranean-looking, with long dark hair and wearing a gold ring on his right hand. He was driving a red estate car and part of the registration contained G15 or G51. On either of these cases, call us 0500 600 600.
Let me tell you about some results from last month's programme. We had our most calls ever giving the same name for the man who filmed himself while tampering with a camera. And let me just tell you, remember that CCTV footage we showed of the man trying to take the camera off the wall? Well, if that was you, we've had so many people ring in with your name. I go to the police station now. A man did exactly that. In fact, we can't show the face tonight because the case is coming up for trial.
Last month, one of our reconstructions was on a spate of attacks on elderly women in South London. There's been no arrest on that. But in a bizarre turn of events, we may have solved quite different crimes. A year ago, we reconstructed burglaries against elderly women in another part of the country. One of the victims was badly injured. A viewer was so affected by the victims we reported on last month that he went to police in connection with the other crimes. He's been charged with aggravated burglary and actual bodily harm.
Man, call an ambulance.
A more conventional result came from CCTV footage after a passenger was attacked on a train near Watford. The man was identified by a relative and others, though he's since died of a drugs overdose.
More faces now from our resident police officers.
Colleagues in Cambridge want to talk to Faoud Baziz about an allegation of rape. It took place in the victim's home while a friend slept in the same room. Faoud Baziz is Algerian, thin and 5'6". He speaks good English, albeit with an accent, and has left his job as a chef in Cambridge. Howard Cole escaped from an open prison in Gloucester back in July 1999. He's a known conman who sets up businesses which trade for a short amount of time. He then vanishes, owing thousands of pounds to companies around Birmingham and Telford. Do you recognise him? Has he approached your company recently?
The Met want to find Peter Oswell. It's investigating the appalling attack on his 73-year-old mother and her 81-year-old partner, Leslie Plumpton, who later died of his injuries. Peter Oswell is 43 and only 5'5". He's been seen at hostels for the homeless all over London, but especially in the East End. He's known to be violent, so don't approach him. Can you tell us where he is now? And this man uses the name Jonathan Bailey, but I'm sure that it's not his real name. He's wanted by my colleagues in the West Midlands after a young man was stabbed to death in a drug den in Walsall. Take a good look at his picture. He may have friends in London. He's got a strong patois accent and crooked front teeth.
Meet Sam Sharp, who lost his father in the First World War. This is his brother Albert, who fought with the army in the Second World War. And this is their sister Elizabeth, with whom they live. They're all now in their 80s and their 90s, and they've been in the village of Buckton in Cambridgeshire all their lives.
We were born in Buckton, and we've been here ever since. 75 years. And we've all lived here together.
We don't always quite agree, but I mean, we don't have an argument, really. No. We're a very peaceful lot, aren't we?
Mm.
Get you, haven't you? Ever since he's been back, it's been like I've been living a nightmare. Never going to let me go, never.
Each night, social services send a care worker to help Sam undress and get to bed. At 88, he's the youngest, but suffers from arthritis.
All right?
Yeah, I'm okay now.
Around 8:30 p.m. on Monday, the 21st of October, a villager noticed 5 men, all in their 20s or 30s, hanging around near the Sharps' house. Just after that, the care worker finished with Sam, said goodbye to Albert and Elizabeth, and set off home.
She went off, and I locked the door and come and sat down here to look at the paper for a little while. Beck goes to bed. I hadn't been sat down 2 minutes before there was a little knock on the door. Of course, I went to see, thinking it was her come back for anything she'd forgotten.
Get in there, stay there. Just sit there. What do you want? Just sit there and stay there.
He had that spear in his hand and stood in front of me.
Where's the money? Where's the money?
I said, I haven't got any. He said, come on. He said, where is it? I said, well, if you want to know, I took it to the bank last Friday.
Just stay there.
And I couldn't get up. He said, if you get up, you'll get this injury.
Where's the money? Where's the money?
fun enough, I wasn't scared. I was just thought to myself, well, there's nothing I can do, only lay quiet.
What are you doing?
Where's the
There's
money?
no money here.
There must be some
no
money.
money.
Where is it? I couldn't get up. I mean, for my legs, I couldn't get about. I couldn't do anything. If I'd got out, rolled out of bed, I couldn't have done anything, and they laid on the floor.
Sit back down. Sit back down, will you?
He picked that coal shovel up and he stood and got me and he went like that, you see.
Albert, the old soldier who's 93, was then stabbed in the arm.
Come on, let's go. You just stay here.
Well, I couldn't catch him or do anything, so I went to the phone. Of course, he pulled the phone off, and I went up the garage where it phoned the police. They're such a rough lot, and the sooner they're caught, the better.
Craig, such a rough lot, and we'll come to that in a moment. But first of all, tell us about the Sharps, the family. How are they now, 2 months later?
Well, it's affected them quite a lot in that Sam Sharp no longer lives at home. He's in a residential care home now, living several miles away from his family.
So after 3/4 of a century together, they've now been broken up, in effect.
That's right, mate.
I mean, tell us about this violence, because it wasn't just this attack, though this attack was bad enough.
No, what you've seen on the telly is a small amount of what actually happened. Whilst Albert was sitting in the chair, the spear that you have there has been stabbed into the chair where Albert's sitting, and the chair's been sliced. That chair alone has been in the family over 100 years, and that was done to show Albert that they meant business. Also, Sam, when he's lying in his bed, the people with the crowbar, every time they've demanded money, they've brought the crowbar down as if to hit him on the head each time, again to impact on, for them to give up the money and to tell them where it was.
And this spear, this is actually a facsimile. This is a copy that you've made up because they went off with theirs, but you've got a fairly good description of it, and it's sort of black up to there, then steel-coloured and very, very sharp tip.
It is a very sharp tip.
They meant business with this.
They did. I mean, it may be that the weapon is a little shorter and a little thinner, but the principle is there. It's two-thirds
Where
black.
would they have got this from? Because this is not a standard piece of kit from anywhere.
No, I mean, we've made some inquiries in industry, and there really is no purpose in industry that this weapon can be used for. From what we've been told, people may be able to tell us differently.
Now, you think this is a part of a series, a pattern of attacks. Tell us about what they've been doing elsewhere.
Well, there was another attack in West Walton, just outside of Cambridge here in Norfolk, where they've forced their way into a home where an 82-year-old lady lives with her 2 daughters, one of which is disabled. With this lady, they've gone upstairs, they're all balaclavaed up again with the same spears. They've pushed this lady down the stairs, the 82-year-old lady. They've cut her wrists, trying to get money from her by hitting her on the arms with this spear. And they've also held the spear up against one of the 2 daughters, telling her that against their throat, telling her that if she didn't comply, she'd get the spear.
I mean, they really are. So head cases to use for everyday politics. I mean, they're completely astonishing levels of violence. We've got at least the one EFIT. I mean, do you have any other description of him at all?
He's described as between 5'8" to 5'10" in height. He's of average build, and he has brown hair because it can be seen underneath the balaclava, sort of hanging down before he put the balaclava on. Apart from that, there's no more information about him at this time.
Perhaps the saddest thing of all is how little money they get away with in these attacks. Although this family lost, a few £100. They lost any money they had in the house. It's not much, it's a substantial amount to them. And those 4 thugs, of course, are still out there. 5, if you include the driver. They're out there on the rampage. Please, before anybody gets more seriously hurt, give us their names, tell us where they live. Call us here in the studio, or you can call the incident room on 01480 456 111.
Well, we've had lots of cases solved by Crimewatch viewers. What happens to those we don't solve? Well, given time, some of those are eventually detected too.
12 years ago, way back in 1990, we reconstructed the murder of Geraldine Polk, who was raped, then stabbed one night in Cardiff. She'd been out for drinks with colleagues, and next morning was found dumped in a stream not far from her home. Her body had been punctured and slashed over 80 times. It led to the world's biggest mass screening for DNA. But that, like the Crimewatch appeal, seemed to get nowhere. Then last year, the DNA came up trumps. Mark Hampson, a 35-year-old carpet fitter, had his details filed on the national DNA database when he was sent to Dartmoor for a violent assault. Last month, he was finally convicted of Geraldine's murder and sentenced to life.
Scream again and I'll kill you!
2 more men caught independently of Crimewatch. You may recall last March we appealed on a series of armed robberies on post offices in Cheshire and North Wales. Police inquiries finally turned up these 2, John Barlow and Alan Motion. They've been sentenced to 16 years.
DNA has dramatically changed the way I work. Cases from years ago have a real chance of being solved. And as we constantly say, people you're concerned about can be eliminated swiftly if they're innocent. But in these next cases, quite simply, if you recognise the faces, then we're home and dry. Imagine working an off licence and you're confronted with not 1 but 6 robbers. These lads went into an off licence on Upney Lane in Barking, Essex. We picked out the best shots of their faces that we could find. They jumped onto the counter and ran behind it, terrifying the 2 girls who were serving. One of them took a bottle from the shelves, smashed the end off it and threatened to cut the girls with it. They took cash from the till as well as phone cards, cigarettes and alcohol. The company are offering a reward for the conviction of any of these. Do you recognise them as a group? Have a look at this unusual way of getting into an office. These 2 men broke into a building on the Euston Road in North London one evening in August. They seemed to know exactly what they were after and headed straight for computer hard disks and processors, leaving behind other expensive items. The equipment they took would have a very specific market, so obviously they knew what they were going to do in advance. The pictures in themselves aren't the clearest, but we think you might know them as a pair. Let us know where they are tonight. Didn't take long, but they managed to steal over £300,000 worth of equipment. If you can help, call us here in the studio, 0500 600 600.
We're getting some rather good calls coming in with some names on the hijack of the Comet lorry in Kent, and a really interesting piece of information coming in now on the sex attack on the woman at the christening in Liverpool. We've had a police officer calling in from Hampshire, and he says that the MO of that attack up there in Liverpool fits almost perfectly a string of sex attacks that have been taking place in Bournemouth. There have been something like 5 attacks there, and in each one there have been several things that seem to fit the same pattern, including in at least one of the cases stuffing a sweet into the victim's mouth, which is such an unusual thing. That's being looked at straight away. And as you may have heard earlier, as Fiona said, we've already got one woman who's given a name for somebody in Liverpool who she thinks is the person who's responsible for that attack. Quite a lot to coming in as well. I can tell you that over the last year, in fact, we've had 420 appeals. So far, over 125 arrests, and over 80 of those have led to convictions. All our numbers, incidentally, if you haven't had them earlier, are on CFAX on page 621.
Our phone lines are open until midnight tonight, and again this Thursday and Friday from 7:30 in the morning until midnight. We'll be back at 10:35 with the Crimewatch update.
If that's after your bedtime, well, happy winter solstice, happy Christmas. Don't have nightmares, sleep well. Good night.
Good night.